What's going on, everybody? Josh McCarty from Bills Chat. With me tonight is Stokes. Stokes, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Great, great, great.
All right. Well, Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, Von Miller all met with the media today as they turn their attention to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London this weekend, Stokes. But before we get to that game, we do have to briefly look back on this week's game against the Dolphins as Josh Allen collected some hardware today, winning his 12th AFC Offensive Player of the Week award. But Stokes, what stands out to me about that, not that Josh Allen already in his young career has 12 AFC Player of the Week awards. It's that 5 of them have come against the Dolphins, Stokes. And when you factor in the thing that Josh Allen has only played the Dolphins 11 times in his career, is it time to make him part owner of the Dolphins?
Absolutely, it is. It is amazing to see just how much he rises to that occasion when it comes to playing against the Dolphins. I love going into those weeks and like no matter what, Josh Allen's going to be really good. Like no matter what happens throughout the rest of the game, Josh is going to be great. He's going to put us in a position to be able to potentially win that game.
And I think what was lost in that news that came out today, because I did tweet that out from the Bills Chat podcast account, understanding just how difficult it is to win an Offensive Player of the Week award. You're competing against the entire conference, the entire offensive side of the conference. And just for context, Tom Brady, who those of you who are old enough to remember, owned the Bills pretty well for about 2 decades straight. In his 19 years, won Offensive Player of the Week award 5 times against the Bills. Josh Allen has already done it against the Dolphins 5 times. Congratulations to him. And that is obviously a great memory from a very memorable Bills game. But let's spin it forward, Stokes. The news of the day is star edge rusher Von Miller opened his practice window, was on the practice field today for the Bills. Sean McDermott and Von Miller both said that they're going to take it day by day. Von Miller said he feels good. If the team wants him to play, he'll play. He definitely wants to be out there. Knowing that the Bills are in this for the long haul, understanding what happened last season when Von Miller was gone, understanding what this defense has looked like to this point without Von Miller, what do you think the Bills should do with Von Miller, Stokes?
I think the biggest thing is to see how his body reacts with practicing here in the states than flying to London. Like seeing how his body reacts to all of that, whether there's any residual swelling or if there's any negative things that happen with his body. And if he is ready, if he's pushing to play, I think they should let him play and put him. Hey, you're going to be on 20 snaps. 25 snaps, no matter what happens, no matter how close or how bad the game is, you're doing 25 snaps and that is it. And because I think he's going to need some time to get knock the rust off and hit players that aren't a Buffalo Bill. So I think he needs to get out there and play some. We can't expect him to be super duper Von Miller right at the beginning. We have to let him get his feet under him, and I just hope that they trust that he's ready. Like he wanted to be ready week 1, and then he's like, okay, I'm trusting the process, and then now week 5 is here. I think it's one of those give and take situations. Like Von's like, hey, I trusted you guys. I thought I was ready week 1. Now you guys got to trust me. I'm ready week 5.
Yeah, and I understand the hesitancy. Like, why rush it? Why not make sure he's healthy for the money games? But there's just no way to predict when injuries will happen. What I will say is Greg Rousseau missed practice today with a foot injury. We'll have to see what happens there. I would not anticipate those two situations to collide. I don't think if Greg Rousseau were to miss this game, Stokes, that would encourage the Bills to push Von Miller. I think these are two very important players, and whether Von Miller is ready to go or not is a decision that they will make independent of whatever is going on with Greg Rousseau.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like everybody in the Bills organization is lockstep. Hey, we're not worried about week 5. Week 5 is not our goal. Our goal isn't to make sure we win the Super Bowl week 5. Like we're going to play this as well as we can play it. And I can't envision them thinking that just because Groot may not be available, that Vaughn should play 60% of the snaps or 80% of the snaps. That is not what they do or how they operate.
When you look at what the Bills have already done this year, they lead the league in sacks without Von Miller. So, like you said, I think if he plays, they will slow play it. We saw the blueprint with Tre'Davious White last season. He came back on Thanksgiving. He played 1 or 2 drives. He was out of that game. I agree with you. I would not expect Von Miller, whatever his first game back is, to get even his normal percentage of the rotated snaps at edge. I think he would basically let guys like Epinesa, Floyd, Rousseau, if he's healthy, Shaq Lawson get the lion's share of the work, and Von Miller will get 20-30% of the snaps as he ramps up. All right, one other thing about this Jacksonville game that's interesting is the fact that it's in London, and you always have to factor in what will that do to players' bodies as they're traveling 6 hours east. The Jaguars have a little bit of a unique advantage. The first time in this London series, Stokes, a team has played back-to-back games in London. They played the Falcons last week. They have stayed overseas this week. Sean McDermott and the Bills have made the decision to leave on Thursday night to basically get to London Friday morning. So they're having 2 regular practices in Buffalo. They're leaving very early Friday morning. Basically, the takeaway I got from McDermott's press conference, which is all driven by the sports science department, the Bills are heavily involved in that, is they are basically sacrificing Friday to give themselves a day to catch up on sleep Saturday, reset their clocks, and be ready to go by Sunday. This is certainly way out of my league. I'm sure they have reasons for this. Do you have any concerns about the Bills' schedule that they're not already over in London? Or do you just, at this point, like I do, trust the sports science department?
Yeah, I have to. Like there isn't anything that we could say or think or suggest that would refute what their plans are. I think in a situation like this, the ends are going to justify the means. So if the Bills come out, they
Right.
dominate on Sunday, it's like, well, they did it right. But if they come out and look flat, like, well, then they should have been in London on Tuesday to have a whole week there. So it's one of those situations where the result is going to dictate how we felt about how they handled it.
And I think it is important to know that the Bills take a lot of pride in their medical facility on site in Buffalo. When you talk about guys like Von Miller, who are, on the line of could he or could he not play? Jordan Poyer was limited today. Christian Benford was limited today. We talked about Gregory Rousseau missing practice. That extra day in Buffalo to get treatment is probably very important to them. And you're right that the end of the story will be told by the beginning of the story either way. If the Bills go out and win by 30, they're geniuses for how they handled it. If they go out and lose by 30, then they totally misplayed the jet lag situation. All right. Well, it is only Wednesday, but let's take an early look at these Jacksonville Jaguars because I think coming into this season, they were considered kind of a flavor of the week team. They did make it to the second round of the playoffs last year before being bounced by the Chiefs. I said all offseason, I thought they were a little bit of a fool's gold team, Stokes. I know they made the playoffs. They won their division, but they were a 9-8 football team that needed a week 18 victory over Josh Dobbs off the street and the Tennessee Titans at home to make the playoffs. And they only won that game because of a Josh Allen touchdown return on defense in the fourth quarter. And then they got a lot of credit for coming back from 27 down to the Chargers in the playoffs. My question is, how in the heck did you get down by 27 points in the playoffs in your first playoff game since 2018? And then the second round of the playoffs, they got a lot of credit for going toe to toe with the Chiefs. But again, I would say you got a gift from the injury football gods by Patrick Mahomes not even being able to plant when he could throw in that game. A real conversation taking place on CBS of whether the backup quarterback was a better idea than Patrick Mahomes. You have to get that game to the garage. So the Jaguars have some talent. I think they have a bunch of guys that we think have the potential to be great. I'm not sure any of them are great just yet. But just on the surface, Stokes, what do you think about this opponent?
Well, the last time Josh Allen played Josh Allen,
Woo.
Josh Allen made a fool of Josh Allen. So I think that this situation, um, I would hope that Sean McDermott like reminds everybody, hey, we were 17-point favorites last time we saw these guys, and look what happened. You guys got rocked, you got dominated, and we lost that game. So I'm hopeful that will be what's in their head, and because this breeds trap game so much after the high of last week and doing what they did. This breeds trap game, and I am nervous for that. Like, I don't think they're a better team than Miami. I don't think they're a great team by any means, but I think that they have talented players that can make you look foolish if you're not locked in, because they've got an offense that's good. They've got game breakers at wide receiver, running back, and they've got a quarterback who has all the talent in the world. So you have all those things together, and it could be a recipe for disaster if they are not locked in.
They get a boost this week on the line of scrimmage. Their left tackle, Cam Robinson, comes back from a 4-game suspension. It will be his first game back on the field, so there probably will be some rustiness there. But certainly when you're talking about a starting caliber tackle that allows Anton Harrison to go to right tackle, and you would assume they'd get better protection there. But I find it interesting that the Jaguars are a 2-2 team, and it's been a weird 2-2. They went to Indy and won very convincingly week 1. I know that game was close on the scoreboard, but there was some fluke that kept Indy in that game. Week 2, they get smashed by the Chiefs. And I say smashed, they could not generate offense against the Chiefs defense. Their defense actually did a pretty good job on Mahomes. That game was in Jacksonville. Week 3 in Jacksonville, they got smashed by the Texans. Now, maybe we're finding out that the Texans are better than we thought because of CJ Stroud hitting the ground running as a rookie, like we've seen some really special rookie quarterbacks do. But still, a team like Jacksonville getting blown out by a division rival at home, I'm sure was not on their plans for this season. And then we saw last week they were able to win a game in London against the Falcons. Just in general, where in the hierarchy of the AFC would you slate the Jaguars?
I would slate them right around the middle of the pack, like right around like the Chargers line. Because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Chargers line, that's where you can put like 3, 4, or 5 teams. You can put them. You can put the Titans, like teams like that. You can put those teams where it's like they could win or lose against anybody in the entire NFL, and it wouldn't really surprise you, because they have the talent. They have a coach with a pedigree. Like they have all these things that can work towards them being successful, but for some reason, every now and then they get in their own way. And I think that the Jags are just one of those teams where they're going to have, they're going to have 4 wins at the end of the season where you're like, wow, they played really well. And they're going to have 4 head scratching losses. And then it's just whatever they do with the other 9 games that's going to dictate whether they're in the playoffs or not.
Well, the Bills are back in a fishbowl spot. They were back. They were on primetime week 1 before having 3 Sunday afternoon slate games the next 3 weeks. Now they are the only game in town again. We certainly hope that the good version of Josh Allen we have seen the last 3 weeks, 2 Player of the Week awards mixed in there, shows up in London against Jacksonville. Final question for you, Stokes. What is your thought on this London series? Maybe not in general what it means financially for the league, but how seriously do you take these games? Because I will tell you, I view these London games a lot like I view Thursday night games. It's cool that they're on. It's a time slot that otherwise football would not be on, so I'm a fan of that. But generally speaking, I think that they tend to have more randomness involved because of the fact that it's not the normal body clock schedule these guys are used to. And I do think that these particular game settings lead to a little bit more unpredictable outcomes than usual. But where do you fall on this?
I think that it is the NFL that they really want to dominate Sunday, and this is just another way for them to dominate Sunday. They get from 9:30 a.m. Eastern until midnight, like Sunday, so they get to dominate an entire day. And I don't know as far as numbers what it's doing, but I think it's a good thing for the rest of the league that they're trying to expand and trying to get these teams or get these other countries to get involved with the game, because it's only going to make the pots bigger as far as money goes, and it's going to make player salaries raise and all the valuations raise. So I think it's a good thing. But yeah, it also, that unpredictability is caked in with football in general also. So I feel like it's one of those things where you can say, yeah, it's random like a Thursday, but it's still football. They still have to go out and execute, whether they have all the time in the world, whether they have a bye week, whether it's anything. Like in the end, it's still the game that the guys have to go out and execute and do it at the highest level that they can.
The Bills have one more practice in Orchard Park before they get on the plane and head to London. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more days until we find out what these Buffalo Bills do against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It will be the Bills' second time in London since this series started. The last time was back in 2015 against these same Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills lost a wild game where EJ Manuel turned the ball over like 3 or 4 times in the first half. They got down huge, mounted a great comeback before Blake Bortles threw a game-winning touchdown pass to Allen Hurns. I'm clearly over it, guys.
Yeah.
Wild ride of a game. The Bills have had some wild games against Jacksonville in general, Stokes. There was the Ernest Wilford game in 2004, if you're old enough to remember that, on opening day. There obviously was the playoff game that the Bills played the Jaguars in. There was the Jalen Ramsey versus Josh Allen game, Josh Allen's rookie year, where he hit that pass to Robert Foster. There was the Josh Allen versus Josh Allen game that you mentioned earlier in this. So a lot of history between these two teams. Something tells me that something memorable will happen Sunday, and hopefully we get a check in the pro box for the Buffalo Bills, but we will have to see. For Stokes, I am Josh McCarty, and we will see you next time on Bills Chat Quick Chat.